Did want to ask, because you spoke about how your contemporaries will kind of create this community that provides feedback and delight and surprise. You have like, or I guess from what I've seen over the last maybe like the earlier years, where in the industry it was kind of the same voice actors that would do the same kind of, not same kind of voices, but you'd always see them, right? They'd always be in anime dubs and things like that. But I'm sure probably now there are new household names, new household voice actors that are making an imprint. And is it something where because you've been in the voice acting game for so long, especially in the anime industry, is it something where you feel like you're a veteran now, where you're kind of showing them the ropes and you're paying it forward in terms of making sure that you're looking out for them or giving them advice, things like that?
I feel like I should be doing a lot more. Um, I I guess for me, I always kind of feel like there's always something new to learn, and so I always feel like I am a perpetual student of the craft. But it always surprises me when anybody comes up and says that they've looked up to me or looked up to my work, and especially if anybody comes up and they specifically say it's um, inspiring to see somebody uh, like of Vietnamese descent doing well in voiceover, because a lot of us, are pressured by our parents or guardians to go into more stable careers. Um, but usually, when it comes to like if anybody's coming to me for advice, then I try to steer them to whatever um, resources that I know about there that I think are beneficial, though, especially ones that I've looked to, or classes that I've taken that I think are really helpful building blocks. I'll send them that way. Um, but yeah, I I don't know. Other than that, then I just try to try to be as supportive as I can.
I'm curious to know, like, as you've gotten more fame, right? Like you've taken on more iconic roles and uh, become a household name. People know you for different characters. Like, how do you prepare, like, basically becoming anime industry famous, right? Like when you go to a con, people know who you are. They want to ask questions, things like that. There's obviously probably no school for how to deal with anime fame, right? And so I'm curious how you started to deal with anime fame, and whether it's digitally or at cons, right? Like I'm curious to get your take on that and your preparation.
I really wish there was a handbook or a class or something that kind of helped, help me to navigate all of that. For me, it's been trial and error. I still don't really know what to do with fame. Because I am kind of a recluse. I know that a lot of my peers have turned to like streaming to kind of help supplement what they do, and also kind of just to reach out and connect with the fan base and do something fun with them, while also kind of creating more content to help them elevate themselves and also maybe making some money. um, for me, I my very first convention, I was so nervous leading up to it. I had like nightmares about it. And I went in, and I remember the very first panel that I had. There was two people there because it was my panel was like right when the convention started, so I'm sure a lot of people were still signing up and stuff like that. And it was like on a college campus, so people were probably still in class. There was only two people, and I was still shaking so bad, just kind of like doing my spiel that I had written out and prepared. I was so nervous. But the two of them were super sweet, and I still keep in contact with them actually. Um, but yeah, I was so nervous, and that really helped me to break the ice and think back on what I could do to improve myself for the next time. Just to kind of like once I gauged interest, and also when I go to other conventions, I went to panels and see what other people did and what worked, and see what I can incorporate to mine, or how I can come up with things that are entertaining, because a lot of times in a convention setting, people are there to have a good time and not just be lectured at about voice acting. Although I do mostly panels on voice acting. Um, and after talking to other voice actors about what they do, it kind of gave me an idea of what I should prepare. It wasn't till like two or three conventions in that I started having at least one prints available to sign to give away. Start prepping materials to bring. For me, I just wanted to have fun myself, so like I use it as opportunities to cosplay. So I would make cosplay to bring, and people would like enjoy taking photos with me because I was in costume as my character. Um, so there's no, I guess there's no like one way to go about interaction with fans, especially at a convention. But the more that I've done, then the more comfortable I've gotten with getting in front of hundreds of people or even two people, um, to just kind of be relaxed and ultimately trust to be myself, which is really hard because I feel like there's like that voice inside of me that's like, you're not good enough, you're not entertaining enough, you're not interesting enough. But I have to trust that, people are there to, hear my story or hear me talk or do whatever and just have a good time. So it helps when I'm more relaxed.
You talked about being yourself, right? And also entertainment, right? Like people are there to have fun. So I'm curious to know, like, how do you balance, bringing the character, right? Like making sure that people have fun or entertained, while also, bringing elements of your uh, personality, right, into, trying to enjoy the con, yourself. So is there like, talk to me a little bit about the separation and intertwinement of, you know, uh, your personal and kind of like work personas in terms of interacting with fans.
In general, I try to be very w- open and welcoming. Um, sometimes people when they approach me, they're very nervous, and I don't want them to be nervous. It's it's more likely that I'm the one that's nervous. Then we just like have this like nervous tension. Yeah, so I try to be as open as I can so that they can have a good time. Really, I hope I don't exude any kind of like scary aura. Um, and when it comes to like being in a booth, like I just I vote. I, I try to get over my nerves. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but nowadays I tend to be a lot more relaxed, and I try to, especially depending on like the energy the director's giving me. If they're joking a lot, then I'll try to, like I'm not trying, but I feel like I'm, they're open to me cracking jokes or making comments too. So sometimes we'll be like, maybe a lot of jokes or I make or tend to be kind of based on what's happening in the script itself. Being like, oh, they're feeling a little feisty today, or like, making little comments in there just to kind of have a little bit of me in there so that, we're having a connection person to person and not just all just like work based. But it also depends because, especially in a studio setting where there's limited time, so you don't want to like launch into like a long, ginormous story because then that eats up a bunch of time.
So let's say, for example, you're at a con, right? And people are there to have a good time. They want to see, the character. They're really excited to see you as a person. I'm assuming as also you as the manifestation like of a character, and like how do you balance those two aspects, right? More in a con setting, an audience setting, rather than kind of the voice acting director stage. It's just kind of a separation between the two.
For the most part, I feel like um, people understand that I am an actor playing these characters. I am not necessarily the characters, and I, did not create them myself. I'm putting my own spin by playing them, of course. Um, but yeah, and like I tend to like to tease and joke with my fans like in character, but I always try to make it apparent that like I am me and I am not this character. I'm not representative of this character or the company that has created the character because I don't want to get in trouble with any of my clients. Um, Very rarely, I guess, there are um, there may be fans that may be on the spectrum, then they cannot make the distinction. Um, and so I just kind of, if it's in a con setting, then I'm fine to like play along just so that they're having fun. Um, but yeah, I mean, I try to make it clear that I am me and not these actual characters.
What do you want your fans to know when interacting with you or talent, whether it's digitally or at cons, right? Like, are there some, guidelines or best practices that you feel would be really important for them to know to, I guess, address you or, interact with you in a very positive manner?
I guess know when it's okay to uh joke about certain things. And like, especially when if interacting with me, I'd prefer things to be very positive. Like, don't talk down on anybody else. That's never appropriate. Or comparing, using me as a comparison to anybody else. I don't typically enjoy that either. Um, yeah, I mean, just keep it fun and appropriate. Don't need to see any lewds of my characters. I'm quite okay not seeing those.
I mean, the internet goes through very far flung spaces, in the corners. So I can imagine sometimes it gets becomes the wild wild west at times. So I understand like the need to like corral it and try to keep it light and friendly and positive for everyone.
I just want everybody to have a good time and feel safe about it. And especially with the internet where anybody can say anything, it's just nice to have like a little safe corner to retreat to.
I do want to start to wrap things up a bit. I'm curious to know, if you have any advice for up and coming or aspiring voice actors.
Nowadays, it is pretty different than when I first started. Um, and it's changing all the time, especially nowadays with like AI becoming a huge thing. It's very scary how quickly it's improving all the time. But that aside, I would definitely say, um, like we talked about in the very beginning, getting your equipment together, learning how to use your equipment to the best of your ability for your space and for your needs. Um, and I know that's like a huge investment when it comes to like money and time, but it's really important that you have these elements working well for you and not working against you. And practice, because that's been like the key for me in my improvement. Um, whether it be classes or getting together with other um, voice actors that have different strengths and weaknesses to you, so you guys can complement each other and help each other out and like experiment and discover new things for yourselves. Um, and then getting really involved in the community and like learning how to protect yourself. There's a lot of projects out there that will massively underpay new talent. So if you need to, reach out to places and find out whether or not you are being undercut, or find out what, good rates or fair rates are. You can always go to like nava.org and or Coda. Those are places where you can reach to an admin and they will help you out. Um, yeah, I feel like those would be good places to start. I feel like nowadays there's so much information out there that can help somebody starting out compared to when I was first starting out. But and I understand that because there is so much information out there, it can also be very overwhelming as well. There's just so much to sort through. But when it comes to that, if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's when it'd probably be best to jump into a class so that you can talk to um, somebody in the industry that might be able to help you make more sense of it all.
I think that makes sense. It's a really good summary, in my opinion. I think you basically summarized a lot of what we were talking about already, but I think you did it in a very succinct kind of way. So I really do appreciate that. Curious to know, like, from your experience, what was either your most challenging voice acting experience, or is there something that you want a voice acting challenge that you want to overcome?
One of the ones that was really tough on me was Fully Coolly Progressive. And it was just because the character goes through so much. I think based on her audition, I didn't realize like how varied she would be. So she goes through states of like monotone, nothingness, very almost kind of like melancholy or depressive state, to being absolutely manic and wild and silly and goofy and big um and then because of the nature of the show, there's just like so much going on, and then she goes into these full on like fight scenes, and there's so much. It stretched me in all ways possible. I was like literally sweating doing a bunch of these scenes because there's so much going on. Um, but that was definitely something really challenging to me, and I also like put a lot of probably unnecessary pressure on myself because I know that it was a successor to the original Fully Cooley that was it has like a huge following. People love it. It's a classic, and I wanted this. I wanted to do this right. I wanted it to do well. I wanted to do my very best so that it would succeed and people would like it. And so I felt like I gave myself a lot of pressure, and I was very nervous.
I mean, it sounds like an emotional method acting session, essentially. Like you're reenacting essentially the anime, but just in an emotional format.
You know what? I guess that's true in a way.
Do you have any future plans or goals in life or career development like that you're working on kind of at this point in time?
There are definitely things that I would like to eventually be a part of or try to do something new. I think it'd be cool to do something like motion capture. It kind of scares me a little bit, but it would definitely bring me back to my stage um, performance days. The main thing that scares me the most is like memorization, because with voiceover, like the scripts are usually right there. I'd never have to like memorize anything. It's all cold reading. I'm reading it for the first time. But I think that doing performance capture would be fun because then you get to like have rehearsals. You have your other acting scene partners there. Um, so I've dabbled into some classes, but it's something that still scares me, and like I something that I would need to improve upon, um, and maybe someday get to work in it on something in that capacity. That would be something very cool.
I mean, if you like having either white or black balls attached to you, and you're wearing, I don't know, a spandex, suit or something like that, and essentially just doing a stage play, right? I'm sure that'll be fun. Who knows? Maybe it'll be like you'll play a creature, right? And you'll have to, you know, uh, act in a way where you have to move your body differently, right? Like since a lot of the motion capture stuff tends to be very abstract. Or who knows? Maybe you'll be an NPC, right? Like, and they just need realistic motions.
I would be happy with that too.